Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jennifer Cunningham. I am a spiritual life coach and a shamanic practitioner. Please, if you feel free, share, like, and subscribe. It does help the algorithm in getting my videos out, which enables me to reach out further in sharing my stories, as well as hearing everyone else's stories, which brings me to the next one. Please feel free to comment on any of my videos and to cover hot topics or experiences that have happened to you. I am thrilled to receive and to go into further topics in the future as well. Hoping to have guest appearances eventually as soon as I get done with my talking about my life experiences. I definitely want to go that route, and so I'm all too happy because that is how we learn and we grow every day. So with that said, I really want to cover the last video about the Fae and my journeys, and I did talk about the elemental demon. And I want you to know that what I knew of this being at that time has changed a little bit throughout the years. And I always kind of wondered why that happened to me. What was the reasoning for it? What was I learning? Just who was that being? Was it an elemental? What was that really? And it wasn't until a couple months ago, and I'll tell you, I've been wondering this for like 20 something years. And it wasn't just until a couple months ago, I was watching a paranormal investigation show in Scotland. And they talked about the Ram Woman. And I'm like, whoa, there it is right there. After all these years, I finally know what that was about. Now, I don't remember the name of this being. I should have wrote it down because I've been looking for that video again to write that down and to include that in my journal. But I haven't been able to find it again. And so I'm still on the search for that. But for those who are from Scotland, please share, because it really was a pretty profound experience with a lot of lessons that were wrapped around that, with protection and setting boundaries and, kind of if it walks like a duck, it is a duck kind of thing, but yeah, I was just awestricken by this show and just the clarity that it brought. And so what I learned about it is it's part of the Fae, actually, or she is part of the Fae. And there's some kind of folklore about babies, and I know that the Isle of Man, whether, Scotland or, because I do research from time to time on this, and I have found that it seems to be a thing with, children, and not all Fae are nice. And so with the whole demon thing in general, the reason why I wanted to cover that is because it really came to light over the last 6 years of having a physical person attached to my babies who's very chaotic and toxic. And I really feel after this experience over the last 6 years in walking my own dark night of the soul, and what I've learned from a family member of mine, as well as actually a couple family members of mine, as well as certain friends and everything like that, that I really feel that we describe things, we give them titles, definitions, and things like that to describe an energy or the behaviors of a person or a being. And it ends up, it's kind of like the telephone thing, or, something that's told from the time of old that just, spirals more and more out of control. Or look at it as a snowball. Okay, you're making a snowball, and you keep rolling and you keep rolling and it keep rolling, and what does it do? It keeps getting bigger, 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 and all of a sudden you got this big, huge, scary snowball that you're afraid having to come after you, right? It's the best way I can explain it. So, like I said in all my other videos, we all come from God's source. All of us, everything in the universe, Christ consciousness, God source, we all come from there. But, I mean, let's look at behavior disorders or dysfunctions. Let's talk about narcissism. Let's talk about psychopaths, right? Like many who have encountered those type of people in their life would definitely, I think, describe them. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else but myself, but I have, in the journey of trying to understand what this type of behavior was, I've come to find out that many people would describe their situations with people with these disorders as being demons or being very evil, right? With that said, even while watching videos from psychologists and therapists and doctors and things of that nature, like I've gone deep down this, and I do not claim to know. I am not a therapist. I am not a doctor, okay? I would never claim that. But by hearing what they have to say, like I learned that this could come from traumas that they experienced in their own childhood. Like you can either go on one end of the spectrum of being completely empathic and wanting to do everything the opposite to make a change in the world. And then I hear that you can develop the behaviors of that parent and become even more toxic. And that's not the only scenario. That's the one that I know well through my own experiences that I've had in my life. But I mean, it seems to me they're still working on this, trying to figure out all of it. But what I have noticed by being able to relate to people within the physical world or physical realm is that this is actually something that happens in all the realms, whether it be the other world, the different dimensions, like beings, like there's so many different realms and dimensions, and like there's balanced, healthy, loving beings. And then there's beings, for whatever reason, within their own story, with how many lives and experiences they've had, have spiraled downward and are functioning from their lower self. But we all come from God's source, every one of us. And so, with that said, I try not to, I wouldn't say that I come from a judging light, but it's discerning, definitely discerning. You want to know who is in your space, whether it be a spiritual being or a physical being, right? And with that said, like, just as you would want to protect yourself from a physical being by setting major rock solid boundaries, depending on, well, you should set boundaries for yourself no matter what the situation, but there are situations that are more intense than others, right? And you got to use drastic kinds of boundaries, whether you go to the courts or and take legal matters, or whether you just you don't associate with that toxic person or being. Same thing in the spiritual world. I mean, that's what protection is with the spiritual world when you're doing different rituals or ceremonies, or when you visualize protection around you. Like you're keeping yourself protected from the unseen that is chaotic and toxic. So that's what I really wanted to bring out with that, because I don't want, the word demon has just like so many symbols and titles and names of things, definitions of how we relate to certain things. Like it can spiral so big that it looks a lot scarier than what it actually is. And we, in our own sovereign Christ consciousness, right, can set boundaries, okay? We We choose for ourselves. All right. But with that said, I do not claim to know everything. Like, the more I walk this path, the more questions I have than I have answers, right? So there's a lot that comes with that. But we should always keep ourselves protected at all times by visualizing or even saying a little prayer, like, calling out to however you want, whatever high, I wouldn't say higher being, it's not a higher being. Nobody's above anybody, but somebody that is known for protective energy, like Archangel Michael. The Morrigan is huge on protection. Tyr in the Norse is known for protection. He's actually helped me and my husband quite a few times, with justice and setting boundaries and things of that nature with certain family members. So it really comes down to that, right? Now, with that said, there was a comment that was talking about possession, okay? And I keep myself so locked down as far as energetically goes. But even with that, we could get blindsided sometimes. And I have ended up with my grandfather had been with me since the day that he passed until I was 36 years old. And for the longest time, I thought he was a spirit guide. And, in a lot of ways, he was there for protection and guidance from the level that he operated from. But he was also an attachment. And that's why I was saying, when it comes to me and Granddad, you're going to find out more about our relationship and the path that I had with him as we walk down, as I share my spiritual experiences. But I figured with this topic, I would go ahead and bring that forward because it does kind of play a part. So, I mean, somebody can have an attachment that goes to a bar and they like to drink on occasion, and there could be a family member that follows somebody else in a bar, and they see that person who has more of a drinking problem and they attach themselves to them because they get to experience through them, right? And then we can pick up on that feeling of their desire to drink all the time. Like, we could pick that up energetically, and then all of a sudden, where we went from drinking like every once in a while, we're drinking all the time now, right? It happens just like that. It's really, really simple. It's not as, everything in nature and in life is more simplistic than we paint it out to be, I think, at times. And from my perceptions, with my own experiences and my own behaviors and beliefs from then to now, I really feel like, at least for me, I've kind of overthought and overcomplicated things that were really quite simple. So I really think that it really comes down to that. Now, there are some situations, or that situation that has happened, that makes me wonder. This is where the question comes in, right? And for those who may have an answer, please feel free to comment, because again, what one of us doesn't know, the other one's probably experienced and has a story to tell that opens and broadens our horizons, right? And again, I might have a different experience in the very near future that really turns things around, as usual. Like I always say to everyone, Spirit amazes me and blows my mind every day with all the things that I learn. Okay, so with the incident, if you look back at my, I don't remember if it's segment 1 or segment 2, I talk about how my granddad came through somebody else at a place that I was working and gave me a message. And then that person's wife came out and called him by name. And it was like he snapped out of it. Like, oh, what the heck? Kind of came to and didn't know. It almost seemed like he didn't know who he was. He didn't know where he was at for like a few seconds. He was coming to. And so I've always kind of wondered about that, how that happens. Maybe it's when we're not aware as spirit. Maybe if we're not that connected to spirit and we're living a very mundane life, we don't know. And like I said, I'm saying maybe, because this is a question. This isn't anything that I know. This is something that I ponder on because of my experience, but just the same, my granddad my granddad was speaking through another person, a physical person, to give me a message, okay? Then I think about other people's experiences that I've shared. And honestly, I haven't found too many. And like I said, please share in your comments. But Andrea Perron, she wrote the book House of Dark, House of Light, and it is the true story behind The Conjuring. And if I ever get the day where I get to meet this amazing, incredible woman who wrote this fascinating life story, oh my God, please, because I have a lot of questions for her, a lot, especially with what I experienced with my granddad. But she even talks about her mom getting overtaken by an energy. And so is it I don't know, is it like a situation where, they're not actually in your body? It's not like a possession like what we identify it as, like how Hollywood's blown up. Is it just like a puppeteer kind of thing, from the outside, or is it something else? I don't know. Never happened to me. I keep myself protected. Nobody ever at any point of my whole living life, physical life, has permission. And I always make that known on a very daily basis. And I always keep my house locked down too with all kinds of protection. I even have iron nails, railroad nails, in my home and around my yard. That's how tight I lock stuff down, which is a powerful type of energy work that is done to keep your home protected. So that's just how strong I am at setting my boundaries now, after a whole lifetime of experience with just physical people. Never mind the spiritual beings, but that's played a part too. But just knowing what physical people are capable of. So yeah, that it's something that I'm really fascinated by, in that deeper understanding of just my experiences in general. But you hear the stories of individuals like Andrea Perron, and yeah, it makes you kind of wonder. And even I've watched interviews with her where she doesn't really look at it as evil, and how even the darkness has light and it has things to teach us, And again, darkness is just another description, right? It's just another word to describe this type of energy or experience or person, or what I mean. It goes on and on and on. But yeah, I really felt the need to kind of go into depth to the best of my understanding through my own experiences of, the whole demon thing. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Literally. That's something that I know for certain. We put that fear in there, but it really isn't nothing to fear, and we are omnipresent. We are divine beings ourselves, and I don't really. So I would like to bring it to, a story that I remember from the Bible. You know, I don't hold Jesus or Yeshua on a pedestal. I don't. We're all one. We're all equal. I mean, to be honest, we really are. There's nobody above and nobody below us. We are all one consciousness together. I do believe he was a wonderful healer, an amazing man through the stories. And I believe that he discovered that truth and that he came down here to do that. Like so many of us healers today, we come here for a purpose, whatever mission we wanted to take. But we're all divine beings, and everybody can, I believe that everybody has the Christ inherited right to, you know, hone into their abilities and the gifts. I mean, I would never say any different. Okay, but you know, for whatever reason that Yeshua came here, I do remember the part where he says one day we'll be able to do all the things he did and more. And I do believe that we are getting into that time, because a lot of people are waking up spiritually, and which is why I feel like, you know, and again, I don't know for sure, for certain, what all the reasons are for sharing my life stories, but I feel like it has something to do with that, you know, because there are so many people that are waking up to their spiritual selves and spiritual life and walking with nature, right? And getting to that point where we're all working within that simplistic harmony. So I think about that. I think about what Yeshua had said. And there was that other situation in the Bible where he had cleansed a person of a spirit, right? Again, I don't really like the dualistic demon thing. I just, after all these, you know, at my time now, in my current moment, after what I've experienced and learned, it doesn't have the same flavor that it did when I first started, coming from a very Catholic background. It really doesn't. But getting back to that story in the Bible, he said, leave him. Pretty simple, right? Leave, get out of my life, get out of his body, get out of his life, if he was even in his body, because who knows? I don't. I really don't know. He could have been on the outside just influencing. And how many people, think about this, how many people in our lives influence us on a daily basis, right? And we choose to allow them to influence us. That's a free will choice. So, you know, I think about that, you know, and like, it's always been very simple for me to help others with the attachments that they have around them that I've cleared. Or once I realized what was in my space at times back then, like with there was a story about the girl spirit that was in my apartment. You know, I needed a little help at that time because I was first walking my path, but that was the start of learning boundaries, you know, with the spirit world. I learned it pretty quick. I mean, you go through what I did with that, you know, and it's like, okay, enough is enough. Out, you know. So yeah, it really comes to that. So with that said, I think this could be another video, because this does run pretty deep. Somebody might bring something to my attention, or one of my teachers who watches my videos as well. Thank you very much, by the way, and for supporting me. I truly, truly honor, love, and respect all of them. They might have something to say. I do plan on, in the very near future, having guest appearances with my teachers and others who have had experiences throughout their lives, because again, telling the stories, our real life stories, we learn and grow from. So, but with that said, I think I like to close it down from here, because I would like to start another video on the next segment of my journey. And so yeah, I think I'll close it here. I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, but please feel free to comment. Please feel free to comment and tell your story, because I would love to hear them. Just as I keep on saying, because I tend to talk in circles. But just as I was saying, I love to hear the stories. And it does bring up different topics to go into depth on. So, yeah, with that said, thank you for joining my channel, for those who have, and I'll see you later. Bye.